Purity. You know, if there's one story that people don't really know about me, it's the time I tried to fall away for the first time. Because as teens, trust me, we're super emotional. Honestly, we're up, we're down, we're all over the place at times. And so the first time I tried to fall away, guys, it was 3 days after my baptism. Specifically from one reason, impurity. I remember I got home and, I got home from school. I'm tired, I'm ready to just take a break from school. And what does any teen do after school? You get your phone and you go on social media. I just went into the little search part, just looking for stuff to just randomly watch. And not even a second later, just bam, just impurity. I mean, guys, this whole thing was just naked women. And it blew my mind because I totally forgotten that before I was a disciple, the majority of the people that I followed on my social media accounts was just pornography. For me, I was like, oh my gosh. And it was the first time I was really tempted to want to give back into impurity. And it literally almost drove me to fall away. Why? Because I had that desire again, and I wanted to give in. This was literally the same day. It was a Wednesday because we had midweek that same night, and I was contemplating choosing to give in to masturbation after midweek. I'm driving with my dad. We're going to midweek, and I'm already like, Dad, you know what? Honestly, I don't even know if I want to be a disciple. I'm honest. I just don't really feel close to God. I don't really feel like the Bible is really connecting to me, and I want to fall away. And I was being super stubborn. Like, guys, I went into midweek. I'm playing games on my phone. My dad is just destroyed. Because now he has to deal with his son who wants to fall away, and he has to lead a midweek service. And, I have people trying to come talk to me and everything. I'm like, whatever, I don't really care. And so I get home. Why? Because what? I want to give in to masturbation. And so I'm in my room. I have the door shut. I'm getting ready to give in. And lo and behold, who knocks at the door? It's my mom. And I'm freaking. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I move everything around, like, what the heck? And I open the door, and she just flat rebukes me. She's like, are you kidding me? 3 days, Dylan. 3 days you're trying to fall away? And she just shuts the door and walks away. And I remember I've been rebuked by my dad. I'd never been rebuked by my mom, though. And yet, I remember I go back into my parents' room, I'm like, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm not going to fall away. But I was that close. Why? Because of impurity. And one of the things that I wish someone could have helped me and taught me back then is understanding that I'm not as strong as I think I am. That a lot of teens think that just because they have social media that they're not going to struggle. They go, oh, well, I have my convictions. I know what I can struggle and not struggle with. But for me, I didn't understand the difference between something that can hinder me and something that causes me to sin. And I wish I could have had Hebrews 12 on my mind as a teen to understand that there is a difference from the things that hinders you and the thing that causes you to sin. And so for me, I kind of thought that I was just strong, that I could handle it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Instagram. It's a great source to evangelize, it's a great source to share with people. But why use something that's going to cause you to sin when you're not even using it for godly reasons, And so for me, I didn't understand that. And so what? I would have Snapchat, I would have Tumblr, I would have Twitter, I would have Instagram, specifically, honestly, for the purposes that would tempt me with impurity. And this was something that haunted me throughout my teen years as a disciple. Because every time I had social media on my phone, it was probably because I was trying to give into impurity, give into masturbation, give into lust, look at pornography. And so if there's anything I wish I could have learned, was that I am not as strong as I think I am, and I got to get some radical convictions to not cause myself to sin by not removing the things that hinder me in my life. And so, guys, I pray that this helps you guys. Honestly, I could have saved myself from so much sin if I could have chosen to get radical, just completely negate and block out all these different things in my life, and to strive to actually be pure and to build a conviction on being pure. So I hope this helps, and I hope you guys can build a conviction to throw off everything that hinders you so that you don't give into the sin that so easily entangles you. So, guys, thank you so much for letting me share.
Okay, so purity. When I think of purity, I think of a situation that happened when I was studying the Bible, actually. I was 15 years old. I was studying to be a disciple. I had gotten open about, all my sin and all my impurity for the first time in my life. And so I felt like this huge burden had just come off my shoulders. So I remember going into school one day thinking like, man, this is going to be awesome. It's perfect, And thinking that everything is just going to be great from now on. And I remember, going into school one day and, it was about lunch. And, I see my friends, they're kind of just hanging out, talking, laughing, things like that. So I go and I sit with them, and it's them, you know, the guys, and you know, this group of girls that were also kind of like our friends and we hang out with. And so, you know, I sit with them, and after like a couple minutes I realized that they're talking about pornography, the things that they have seen before, whether it was in person, online, or just kind of like bragging about it. And I'm just there shocked, if I'm honest with you guys. Like, I can't believe what they're talking about. The depth, the details, it's just making me struggle. And in my heart I started to struggle, because I'm like, man, like, how is this happening right now? Like, I'm studying the Bible, I'm trying to change, you know? So then comes the big moment of truth. You know, I'm kind of a popular kid at school from America, you know, and I'm living in Chile at the time. And so, you know, they're like, oh man, well, what have you seen? Like, for sure, like, the American kid has got some crazy things that he's seen, you know. And I have to make a decision in that moment as to whether I'm going to stand for my purity in this conviction that I've taken up studying the scriptures, or I'm going to fall into this trap of talking the way that they are, saying the things that they're saying. And so I remember I just make a decision, and I stand up for my purity. And I tell them, like, hey guys, I'm going to be honest with you guys, like, you know, I have seen those things before, and I'm not going to say that I haven't, because I have. Like, I have fallen into that trap. But it is something that I'm trying to change right now. You know, I've made a decision recently that I'm no longer going to look at those stuff. I'm no longer going to look at pornography or anything like that, because it's just not who I want to be. It's not what I want to be known as, and that's not the example that I want to give people when I say that I'm a Christian. At that moment, I see everybody just kind of like shocked. Some of the guys that, you know, were my friends start laughing at me, you know. Some people start looking at me weird, like, whoa, like, who's this kid? And, you know, it was kind of like an awkward moment at that time. And then I just remember this girl who was, you know, visibly you could see she was uncomfortable as well with the conversation. She stands up and she's like, man, like, you guys should learn from him. He's actually mature. He's trying to change something in his life that we all know is wrong. And so it was something that really impacted my heart at the moment, because I stood up for my purity. I stood up for my conviction of being a disciple and being a man of purity. And it impacted me so much, because I took a stand for the first time in my life to the world, but it actually made a difference in somebody's heart to view somebody and say, like, wow, he can stand up for his convictions on purity. How I can just really become victorious in my purity, staying close to God. And so it really impacted my heart that somebody was actually moved by me standing up for my purity.
What's up, guys? Lucas Tria here from São Paulo, Brazil. So the scripture says, flee the evil desires of youth. So what does this mean? We know that we need to fight against all of the sins, but there's just one specific sin that we need to run away from it. And this sin is called sexual impurity. So for me, I began with sexual impurity when I was super young. I was 9 years old, elementary school. I kissed a girl for the first time. And from this moment until I was baptized with 15 years old, for 6 years, I was enslaved for sexual impurity. This was my Lord. It changed my mind, and I felt empty a lot of times. So I was in a family trip to another state in Brazil, to where my mother's family is from. Got to see my cousins, got to see my aunts, my uncles, and everybody, my grandmother. But this cousin of mine was having a birthday party, and they were all like at my age. We were all teenagers, and this cousin, she invited some of her friends from her school to this birthday party. There was swimming pool and everything, and this was just one girl. I maintained eye contact with her. I remember, like, from my heart, I remember going to one of the bedrooms there, and we went to this bedroom, we made out, and you know, I was never immoral, but with this girl, I was going to be immoral. And then I heard a knock on the door. It was my dad. I heard the knock, I put on my clothes, I opened the door. My dad was standing there looking at me. I felt super ashamed. And at this moment, I opened my eyes. I mean, all those times I was impure with girls, all those times I just came in my bedroom, just laid down in my bed, looked at the roof for like hours and hours, feeling empty. Makes you feel empty. I was feeling empty. It was horrible. But then I made the decision to really change this and not be a slave of sexual impurity, but make Jesus the Lord of my life. So I know if you're watching this video, I know sexual impurity is a really strong sin, but you need to run away from it. Like I ran away from it, like people ran away from it. So don't be like me, don't be like what I did, but really change. Talk to any of the guys. I think we're gonna have our Instagrams down below. Talk to us and find a spiritual help to help you with the sin. Thank you so much.
My name is Chris K. I was baptized when I was 17 in my first year of sixth form, and now I'm 21. And when I think about purity, it's actually very interesting because when I was growing up in school, purity was something that was very frowned upon. People really didn't like young people being pure. Thinking about to my teachers and my friends, we just spent most of our day talking about impure things. And the moment that comes to mind was when I was in my first year of sixth form. I was still the same friends I was with since I was 12. And what we would often do is we would sit on a lunch table and just look at the girls coming past and talk about, you know, their features and really kind of degrade them in a conversation. I can remember this particular lunchtime where now I'm a disciple and the same girl walked past, which we kind of talked about a couple of months ago. And my friends were all checking it out, and they were like, "Chris, you know, look at this girl. She's coming back. Look how she looks like now." And I was like, "No, I'm not gonna look." And they all looked at me with like absolute disgust. I was like, "What is wrong with this guy? Like, what is going on with him?" At that specific time, I was very insecure, and I was thinking, "Oh my goodness, you guys are gonna think I'm uncool. You guys are gonna think I'm a weirdo. What's going on?" And actually later on in that day, I realized, you know what? It's all right. It's all right that I took a stance for my purity. You know what? No one in my life has ever taken a stance for my purity. And I realized that my stance there, being a teen disciple, was something that was really going to impact them in the future. And even some of my friends now, they may not have been disciples, they've really seen that, okay, Chris is someone who really cares about his purity, and as a Christian, he really values it. And I think that's what really helped me when I was a teen.
Hey guys, Jordan Swan here. When it comes to impurity, I know for me, I definitely had my struggles with sexual and physical impurity. But one topic that I think goes a little bit under-discussed that I think was a huge struggle for me as a teen Christian is emotional impurity. What I mean by that is going into high school, that was sort of the time in my life where a lot of my friends and a lot of my peers started to get their first girlfriends, and the pressure to date really started to set in. And, you know, me, I had my convictions and standards that I really wanted to uphold in my purity, but at the same time, it was hard watching, you know, your friends start to jump into these relationships, and when the same thing is available for you as well, it was hard to, you know, say no to those things. And I think that it's because as men, we do desire the comfort that comes from attention, you know, from girls. And we don't talk about it a whole lot, but it can really be a struggle that can kind of weigh us down, and it plays the long game with us. You know, like over time, it can really wear you down. And I think that it comes because we're not content in our relationship with God. And I found that this was a big problem for me as a teen Christian, because although my relationship with God was important to me, I found that it didn't meet all my needs, so to speak. So I thought that I could meet those needs in a relationship with like a girl. And so, you know, when, you know, pretty little girl starts to flirt a little bit, that the temptation is, oh man, like I really want to engage in this. I want to see what I can get out of this. Even if you don't intend to do anything with it, the temptation is just to kind of let yourself feel that attention and feel that approval. And it's because I wasn't content in my relationship with God. And so I think the answer for emotional impurity is that you have to be content in your relationship with God. You have to let God meet your needs as opposed to trying to get them from other people. Because the truth is, I did fall short in this area. And I remember when I was in 8th grade, I got this like secret girlfriend because I wanted to have my image be, yeah, I'm a Christian and these are my standards, but I also wanted that attention. You know, I wanted that comfort in a relationship. So I was kind of trying to do both at the same time. And really all the comfort, all the satisfaction that I thought the relationship would bring me, it actually did the opposite. And I was trying to balance this double life, and nothing I thought that it would bring me actually happened. In fact, it was when I cut off the relationship and was like, okay, I want to be, you know, sold out here and really give my heart to God. That's when I actually found that peace and happiness that I was looking for the whole time. And so I think the world tries to tell us that we can't be happy unless we're emotionally tied to someone else. But the truth is, we don't need to be emotionally tied to people. A lot of times it's unhealthy. And I think that we can have good relationships, but not when it's impure, not when it stems from something that is selfish and self-motivated. So I think the big struggle for a lot of teen Christians, people in high school that want to live their lives for God, is to try to find that satisfaction and happiness in those emotional connections. For me, it was a bad experience. Hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and just be content in your relationship with God.